What's up guys, Evan Jarvis here. In this video, you are going to learn why 3-betting is usually a more profitable play than calling, why 95% of poker players don't make money, and the psychology behind why humans love to implement losing poker strategies. This is part 2 of a 3-part series, so if you haven't yet watched part 1, I invite you to do so. I've put a link in the video description so you can click that and get all caught up, and you can get the most out of this lesson. And if you've already done that and you're already up to speed, then let's get stacking.
Let's remember this player's overall distribution here and apply our theory. So this is one distribution I'm going to look at. I have many others that have matched this. You can look at your own and see if this stuff matches to see if this theory works for you. I assure you, with almost all people, it does. Now, let's weigh cold calling versus 3-betting because one contains an action that seeks the betting lead and one does not. So right here, we have, this is just the overall. He's making 5 big blinds per 100 with these hands. Now, did cold call. Now, this is that distribution when a cold call is applied. You can see the earnings rise by roughly 20%. That's not chump change. Especially he was in a bit of a tougher game. So this is neat. However, this is what happens to the distribution when we filter for 3-bets. That is a 3,720% increase. That differs from the cold call by 3,700%. The BB per 100 going up to 203. Discerning minds may point out, though, that this player likely 3-bets with better hands than they cold call with. This is a great point, so let's test our conjecture further. So let's start with medium pairs and see how they are affected by 3-betting and cold calling. Now quick, how much do you make with these hands on average? How much should you be trying to make? 10 big blinds per hand? 5? 1? 500 big blinds per 100? 250? Take a guess. And if you don't know what you should be making here, ask yourself how you could possibly be executing to the best of your ability. It's like throwing a touchdown pass and not knowing where your receiver is. You could have the greatest battleship on Earth outfitted with the world's greatest captain, but if you don't have a destination, then your ship is going nowhere. Here's an overall distribution of how this particular player is doing with these hands. I picked this database because it was very generic. There were few anomalies. The player makes 5 big blinds per 100 with all hands, which is a standard winning rake. And with these hands, they make 174 big blinds per 100 hands, those 10s to 7s, which means they make 1.74 big blinds per hand. A good player would make 2 big blinds. An excellent player would make 2.5, which is interesting. How else could you make 2.5 big blinds very easily? And here is how that player is doing when they cold call with these hands. It's about the same, about 1.8 per hand, 181 per 100. And here's how that same player is doing when they 3-bet those hands. A noticeable rise to 250. Let's look at another category. Let's now look at big aces. Again, how much should you be making with these hands? 5 big blinds per hand? 1, 2, 10, 500 big blinds per 100, 50, 250? How are you going to execute when you have no idea what's possible? You probably have no idea how well you're playing these hands. Poker is not like life. Everyone in poker, if they play enough, will get dealt the same hands the same number of times. Whoever makes the most money off the good hands will win. You are capable of all of this, okay? Average is 200 big blinds per 100. A real technician can make 250 big blinds per 100. This player is making 150. If they improve their game moderately, they could be making another 50 big blinds per 100 hands played. If I was teaching this player and I saw this, this is where we'd start. These would be the hand types that I would look at first. Here's the same player when they cold call with these hands. Now, you'll notice the EV big blind per 100 is very different than the big blind per 100. I want you to notice this. So he's making 355 big blinds per 100, but EV shows 195. That means when the money just got all in, the homeboy here ran pretty well. Ran ace-king through kings a number of times. You must note that this, when you're looking at databases, variance can skew your results. You click on this little button if you want to add it. The stats button, which I've kind of squeezed in my attempt to coat this entire screen with this shot. You must note this when you're looking at databases because variance can skew your results. The EV big blind per 100 will let you know if someone is running good or bad. In this case, our player is running exceptionally well and can expect to actually make 195 big blinds per 100 when cold calling with ace king and ace queen. And now we see he's running closer to expectation when he 3-bets, where the EV is 206 big blinds per 100. So again, we are seeing greater expected profits with a particular hand group when we 3-bet versus when we cold call. Now let's apply this same experiment to hands that don't have as much pre-flop value. How do you play your small pairs? How often do you call with them pre-flop to flop a set? How often do you 3-bet with them and turn them into a bluff? Think of your answer and think of why you do it. Is it because somebody told you to do that once? Is it because that's what everyone else does? If I put a gun to your head and said, show me the evidence, could you produce it? Guys, if you learn nothing else from me today, learn this, okay? 95% of poker players do not make money. So when you walk into a poker room, 19 out of 20 of those guys statistically are losing money when they play poker. Okay? That is in the reports to every shareholder, to every poker site that's ever come out, right? If the play is normal in your card room, statistically speaking, on average, it's a losing play. Aside from the obvious raises with good hands and c-bets, a lot of these plays are just terrible that people do. Now, here's something we have to think of. I'm going to spend a little time on this because I think if you guys can understand this, you'll go really far. The fact you're watching this shows you're not in that 95%. You're reaching for something further. They're there to gamble. They might not say that. They might not think that. But statistically speaking, they're not making money, so why are they playing? It's because they want to belong. It's a very human need to belong. And looking like a poker player is kind of cool. It gives you a great moment. We all feel it. When you make a great call down, you get to table your hand, it feels amazing. But as we look at these data sets and as you watch the video series, if you do check it out, you have to think about who your competition is. Let's think about the different things they could be doing, okay? And look at it through the lenses of, I'm a little lonely, or I need a break from my kids, or I really miss my glory days on the football field. I want that same kind of feeling here. Well, imagine raising as a bluff as one of these people. It's a negative free roll. Because if you raise as a bluff and you're right, nobody sees it. Just pick up the pot. You can show your hand, but then you're kind of a horse's ass. But what happens if you raise and you get called? And you were bluffing? Everybody sees it. Ooh. That's not good. Think about the size of the pot when you raise and you win versus when you raise and you lose. It's a lot bigger when you lose. Folding. Think about folding. Well, folding you can't win. Folding doesn't feel good. It's not that hard to make money at poker. You can literally just play 8s plus, ace queen plus in loose games. You'll make money. I did it for years. But nobody can fold because folding feels like losing. You never have to keep an image too. If you fold too much, people will want to punish you for not playing the game with them. Especially if you're a young guy. They're never going to believe you're a nit. That was always my advantage. Now think about calling if you're one of these guys. One of these 19 out of 20 people that don't make money from poker. Calling is the ultimate free roll. Because think about it. If you call and you're wrong, you just muck your hand. Nobody sees it. But if you call and you're right, and you table any old thing and it wins, nice hand. Everybody gets to see it. Everybody says nice things to you. So most of these people are playing a style. We're going to go over some stats in further videos in discussing things later. Most of these people are playing a style which is minimal risk to look stupid, maximum risk, maximum possibility to look cool. And that's fine if you want to play poker and get social proof, but that's not why we're here. You're here, you're watching this video because you want to make money at poker. Now, one of the really cool things about poker is if you take a good concept from poker, it can apply to life. I will say one of the greatest things I've ever learned from poker is how judgmental of a person I am and how much that was hurting me. Some of the best plays I've ever learned were from 72-year-old retirees, from ladies, from a lot of people that, quite frankly, I used to be prejudiced against. When I played poker, I'd say, oh, this person doesn't look like me, therefore they don't play like me, and I think the way I play is better. And there is a tribal instinct to that, but if we go back to why do I have that thought, why do I think this is right, a lot of times I realized, why did I call with 6655443322? It's because everybody else was doing it. Did I ever see a Card Runner's EV calc? Did I ever do a Card Runner's EV calc? Did I ever look at a database? No. I just did what everybody else did, and I never got punished for it. If I missed, I just folded on the flop. If I hit, I won a big pot, and everybody got to see it. There's no risk at looking dumb. And that is the danger that can be avoided through analytics. So here are the small pairs we are using. Quick, how much should you be making with each small pair? 10 big blinds, 5, 2, 1, a tenth of one? How many big blinds should you be making per 100 hands? 50, 200, 150? A third of a big blind per hand is pretty typical. A great player can make about a half. That's 30 to 50 big blinds per 100. This is a distribution when our player cold calls. As you can see, his earnings roughly double. They went from 30 big blinds per 100 to 60 big blinds per 100. That's a 100% increase. That's not chump change. His EV is even higher, 75. And here's what happens when the same player I trained started 3-betting. This is very typical. 103 EV big blind per 100, 178 actually. As you can see, he's now making 178 big blinds per 100, which is what he was making with Ace King. However, his EV is just 103, but that's still a 300% upgrade from how he did overall with these hands. Let's do suited 2-gappers. Let's go as far as we can into the barely playable spectrum. How much do you think you make with these hands? If you're at an active table and you're forced to fold Queen 9 suited from middle position, how angry are you? How much money could you have potentially made? Have you ever folded Queen 9 suited when it's folded to you? Even when people behind you are never letting a raise through? What are you risking? What do you stand to get? What you're risking is generally 2.5 big blinds, and you're making about 1/10 of a big blind with these hands. 2/10 of a big blind sometimes. 3/10 of a big blind if you really know what you're doing. Now, my player actually is really tactful cold caller, is a really tactful cold caller with these hands. He only does it when he can play big multi-way pots with weak players. He's very selective. His very selective application of the cold call has yielded 109 big blinds per 100. He's making a big blind per hand. That is outstanding with these hands. However, when he 3-bets with these hands, he makes 231 big blinds per 100. That's 2.3 big blinds per hand. If we go by EVs, making 1.4 big blinds per hand. That is 1,000% increase on his average with these hands. Let's look at these distributions right after you get done with this webinar. Excuse me, you should look at these distributions right after you get done with this webinar. This is a typical distribution when a player is a preflop raiser, an example of having the betting lead. This gets brought down a little bit if you take out 3-bets, but it's generally going to be positive. This is another typical distribution with 3-betting. About 2 big blinds every time the person 3-bets. Another example of keeping the betting lead. Now, this is a typical distribution when we call a preflop 3-bet. This is an example of us not having the betting lead. So called preflop 3-bet, negative 46. That's actually pretty good, too. The high end I see on this is like 50. I've seen a few wizards get it to like 100, but 90% of the population is negative 50, negative 100, negative 150. I've seen negative 200. Most people don't change what they flat with based on your 3-bet. So if you 3-bet to 3x, it's really difficult for someone to flat you out of position and make money off of it. But people don't care. They want to play. And you'll see all the time, negative 46.95, negative 50, negative 100, negative 150. Well, the money's got to go to someone. It's probably not going to the cocktail waitress or the dealer or the guy with the cool Oakley shades on the other side of the table. It goes to the 3-better. Do you want to be that 3-better? How often do you 3-bet Queen 9 suited? Every single time? How about pocket 4s? This is a distribution when this player makes a continuation bet. This is an example of having the betting lead. 2.5 big blinds every time. Yay! And here's that same player facing a 3-bet. Example of not having the betting lead. Facing a flop continuation bet. Negative 100. That's actually, negative 92 is not that bad. I've seen negative 150 a lot of the time. But the fact remains, you let someone c-bet into you, unless you're raising the vast majority of the time in a heads-up pot, you're not making money. It's just not happening. Now, if you want to learn how to do this, go to tournament filters. You can go to quick filters and hit pre-flop raise. Apply these to the position report to see this in your own hand. So the ones I just showed you were 3-bet, call versus 3-bet, and c-bet flop. Facing c-bet is a little different. The only one we just used that wasn't under quick filters is facing flop continuation bet, which can be found underneath other advanced filters. That is something I wish to impress upon you. None of these findings are difficult to find. We're just in the beginning of analytic-driven era of poker. I don't want you to think... One thing I want you to do is every one of your thoughts you apply to poker has the ability to ruin you or make you king. So you have to be very vigilant when thinking about your strategy as it applies to poker. You must be very cautious. You must understand what you're doing and why. So do not trust me or anyone. Find out for yourself. And just so you know where we're at in poker. Now, if I'm sure, let's use the international analogy I use with this and the baseball analogy, which is what I use with Americans. I'm sure in the baseball players of 1879 thought they knew a ton of things that the players from 1862 did not know, right? But if we look back at the baseball players of 1879, they're probably pretty garbage compared to now. The same thing applied to soccer. There were soccer teams in 1908, and I bet the teams in 1922 and 1925 thought, whoa, we're so far ahead of those teams. How many of those guys from the 1922 squad do you think could compete now with the Netherlands total soccer? Probably not a ton of them. We're right now in the 1879 of baseball, the 1922 of soccer. We are just beginning to scratch the surface. This stuff works, but we're just beginning, right? And the funny thing is, it's so easy to come by, and yet people will not look for it. People are just not into that. This has been a preview for Master Tournament Poker in one class. If you enjoyed the subject matter of this presentation, if you enjoyed the way I come to my analysis in this presentation, if this sounds like the type of training you think would get your game to the next level, Master Tournament Poker in one class is the product for you. In this one, it is a complete out-the-box program to get you mastering tournaments. We discuss pre-flop raising, 3-betting, 4-betting, cold calling, blind defense, how to play each stage of a tournament, flops, turns, rivers, ICM. There's tons of reference materials. There's several videos that will guide you through it. Not a minute is wasted.
And that wraps up this part of the training series. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a lot from it. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up to let me know how I'm doing. And if you learned something from this video, please let me know in the comments what your key takeaway or your biggest aha moment from watching this video was. I promise you, if you do that and then look at the other comments that are there, you're going to learn a whole lot more. This is the beauty of YouTube. This is the beauty of community. This is how we grow as a team, by sharing our insights, reading what others' insights were, and engaging in discussion to further develop those thought processes. I really hope you're enjoying this learning series. And when you're ready to watch more training lessons like this one, feel free to check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Gripst, or come by my website, www.gripst.com, and join Team Gripst for exclusive discounts, offers, and training opportunities. We got a whole lot of good ones coming on the way, and I hope that you are someone I will be getting to share them with. Let's get stacking. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it educational and entertaining. If you want to join Team Gripst, click on that subscribe button and tap that bell to be notified every time a new video goes live. For behind the scenes updates and motivational quotes from my poker journey, follow me on Instagram. And when you're ready to take one step closer to becoming poker's next champion, click on me in 3, 2, 1, and let's get stacking.